The Blue Jackets are bad. They've lost 7 games in a row, but good news. We've got Deana Weinheimer of Field Pass Hockey here to talk about the future, to talk about goaltending, and to talk about the newest member of the Columbus Blue Jackets rookie squad, Carson Meyer. That is all coming up today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you all of the stories, the news, the trials, the tribulation, the joys, the agonies of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day, even though it's currently, as of the time of recording this, it is 4:30 Eastern, but that's fine. Thank you for stopping on by, and welcome in. I have got a super fun show for you today. Like I mentioned off the top, we've got Deana Weinheimer here of Field Pass Hockey, my co-host over at Monsters Musings, to come and talk about Carson Meyer, to talk about their brand new baby goalie, Evan Moyse, to talk about the future of the team, and all that plus a little bit more. So I'll just get right into it. So we're not doing a Monsters Monday this week for various reasons, but we are doing a Monsters Tuesday. And friend of the show, Monsters expert, Deana Weinheimer, is here to talk to us about all things Cleveland Monsters. So I thought let's start off with maybe the most notable Cleveland Monster at the minute, Carson Meyer, who made his NHL debut last night against the Boston Bruins. He is, I believe, the 9th Blue Jackets player to debut this season, the 8th or the 9th Blue Jackets rookie this season, which is extremely impressive and also, again, speaks to how young this team is. But Carson Meyer is someone that Deana and I have been talking about basically all season long on Monsters Musings, which is the podcast that we do over at Field Pass Hockey. So, Deana, let's talk Carson Meyer. Obviously, Blue Jackets fans got to see him a little bit last night. They saw him take his baby's first penalty minutes. But what should this team, what should these fans expect from Carson Meyer going forward if he does? I think he's playing tonight, which is very exciting. So what should they expect from Carson Meyer?
Well, they are in for a pleasant surprise with Carson Meyer. Unfortunately, they did not get to see a whole heck of a lot of him against Boston just because there were so many penalty minutes and just the overall style of the game. I completely understand why head coach Brad Larson did not want to put a rookie in his very first game out into those situations. Totally understandable. So he got maybe like 3 minutes of ice time, but what you can expect. And it wasn't shortly after he had the penalty call, he went and served the penalty, but then he came out and started making amazing moves, protecting the puck, being the first on to the board battle, winning the board battles. That is Carson Meyer's bread and butter. And then just wait whenever he gets a little bit of open ice and gets the opportunity to start making some really offensive tries and shots on goal. He is just a really dynamic player, and I really hope that he gets to have more ice time in the game here tonight.
Yeah, and I think obviously the Blue Jackets are playing Philadelphia tonight. So obviously, I don't think it's unfair to say that they are not as good as Boston. So I could see Carson Meyer getting some more minutes if it's a low penalty affair. I don't know that my heart can take another game like last night for various reasons. But yeah, we're going to hope that Carson Meyer gets a little bit more ice time, gets to show this team kind of what he's capable of, because it's such a great story. Central Ohio native, incredible rookie season last season with the Monsters. He was, I believe, a 6th round draft pick of the Blue Jackets a few years ago, and now he's making his NHL debut.
Yeah, I am just so excited to see him finally get that call up. Of course, he was called up earlier on in the season for one game, and unfortunately didn't get to play, but he got a taste of what NHL life was like. Now he's making his second straight start. What a great story. Like you said, overall, I mean, originally after he was drafted, he, I think there came a time where there was like a qualifying offer and he didn't get that. And then so he ended up signing last year a contract with the Cleveland Monsters right out of college at Ohio State, ended up tearing it up in the American Hockey League that year, despite not the greatest starts. There was a bit of an injury. And then, of course, we had the COVID shortened seasons, but then he ended up signing his 1-year entry-level contract back in April. It was mid-April of 2021. So it just overall, just great work by Carson Meyer, and I can't wait to see what else he does with this.
Yeah, from one Ohio OSU player to another, obviously some exciting for me anyway. We all know on this show, this is a goalie-friendly show. I love goalies, so I'm always happy to talk about goalies. And the Monsters made a signing today with Evan Moyse, who I believe has been called up. Has he been called up previously and kind of backed up a couple of games?
Yes, this is not his first. It's a professional tryout contract with the Cleveland Monsters. Not the first go around this season. He did not skate in those games. Like you said, it was more of a backup or a insurance option. But now, who knows? We may actually see the Olmsted Falls, Ohio native get to skate in some AHL games here coming up soon. The Monsters are starting on Wednesday, I believe, going into their final 12 games of the season. Unfortunately, unless absolute chaos happens, they will not be making the American Hockey League postseason, even with the expanded playoffs format. But yeah, he earlier on this season, he was an invitee to Blue Jackets training camp, and ever since then, he's just kind of been on Cleveland's radar.
Coming up in a minute, I've got more of my conversation with Deana, but first I want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. You can find all of the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship, which I think is golf, but I'm not 100% sure. You can find the odds for that, podcasts and reviews for all the different leagues this season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. They've got hockey, they've got golf, apparently, they've got boxing, they've got UFC, they've got baseball, they've got basketball. If you have a sport that you would like to spend money on, then betonline.net is the place to go. So head to the website today. Once again, that is betonline.net. Or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Yeah, and this is something we talked about on yesterday's Monsters Musings, actually, which is, what do teams play for at this point in the season if they're not going to make the playoffs? And it's playing their young players and seeing what they've got. And I think, obviously JF Brube is going to be up with the Blue Jackets for the remainder of the season. Jonas Korpisalo out for the season with hip surgery. So, if Elvis is injured, then we are down to our, bare bones, brass tacks goaltending situation. So I think it was a necessary move, but also I think a really interesting one because, I think in a perfect world, next season, Danil Tarasov is a Blue Jacket. If he can stay healthy, if he has a good off season, I could see him backing up Elvis next season. I don't think the organization wants him in the Monsters. I think they want him with the Blue Jackets. And so then, where do you go from there? Obviously Jet Greaves appears to be the future of the Monsters. And, he's one of my favorite stories this season as well. A guy who signed as a free agent, went to training camp straight out of, I believe he did 4 years with the Barrie Colts, I believe. And just kind of wing and a prayer, he turned up, he was fantastic in Traverse City. Because the Blue Jackets did not have any other goalies that could play in Traverse City. And he has kind of he's been phenomenal, I think. I don't know that I don't think the stats will agree with me necessarily, but every time you watch him play, I can see an improvement. And so I would love to see if Evan Moyse can have that same kind of success with the Monsters.
Yeah, and to just back up what you said about Jet being the future in Cleveland, they knew that going into this whenever they offered that contract, because it was a 2-year, two-way deal between the AHL and ECHL. You don't really see a whole lot of that type of two-way contract, but they wanted him there at least as the insurance option, and then he has played his way into being the guy. They've been riding him a lot here, especially with JF Berube getting those call-ups into Columbus, now being the definitive backup now for the rest of Columbus's season. Like you said, they needed somebody to step up. It was either going to be Greaves or Cam Johnson, and it was Greaves that stepped up. He's done amazing ever since Traverse City. And one thing I have to keep reminding people is this is a kid who didn't play professional hockey or literally any hockey at all last season, just because the leagues that he would have been able to play in opted out for the season due to COVID concerns. So this is a kid with a year off. Imagine how good he'd be if he didn't have that break in development. So super exciting future. I'm glad to have that stability. And I'm sure Cleveland is too. Glad to have that stability in their net going into next season.
Yeah, for sure. And it's weird. I feel like the Blue Jackets went from having like a super deep goalie pipeline to very suddenly being like, well, it's Elvis and Korpisalo, and then a big old question mark, because obviously, the passing of Matisse Kublenix over the summer, losing Veini Vavalainen in the trade, it's suddenly kind of become, well, who's next? And I don't know that Jet Greaves is an NHL goalie, and this is something else we talked about on Monsters Musings yesterday. So, Locked On Blue Jackets listeners, if you haven't, go listen to Monsters Musings over at fieldpasshockey.com. But he's 21 years old. Most goalies don't hit their peak until maybe 24, 25, so obviously it's really easy for me to sit here right now and say Jet Greaves is not an NHL goalie. We've seen weirder things happen, and I think just to kind of tie that back into the Evan Moyse signing, the future is suddenly looking a little bit brighter for the depth of Columbus goaltending and the depth of the Cleveland Monsters goaltending.
Yeah, it would honestly shock me if Evan Moyse does not get chances here with this contract. It's just a PTO, just a professional tryout contract. So it is limited starts, but again, it's only 12 games left. So he's going to be playing, in my mind, for a contract for next season, get that professional kind of upper minor league type of contract, try to get out of, the SPHL, where he has been the majority of the season. I mean, he's been with the Vermilion County Bobcats, the Knoxville Ice Bears, the Evansville Thunderbolts. He had one game with the ECHL's Wheeling Nailers. I believe he was with Birmingham too, prior to this. But it's just, we talked about this on Monsters Musings. And like you just said earlier on, what are these guys playing for? Playing for their next contract. So it's, in my mind, potentially his position to lose, because the Monsters don't exactly have a backup goaltender for next season. They know Jet's probably going to be their guy. They know Daniil's probably going to be up with the Jackets. So that spot is open. Why not go in and claim it? You have your in. Go do it.
Coming up in a minute, I've got the end of my conversation with Deana, but first I want to tell you about Rock Auto. because with the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's basically impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning, while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket, so why not use that instead? You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. They are a family business that have been serving DIYers for over 20 years, and if you are a DIYer or if you're a professional, their prices are reliably low no matter who you are. They've got everything from brake parts to tail lamps, motion oil, even things like new carpet. If you can put it on or in your car or truck, rockauto.com probably sells it. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now to see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us box, they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like as much as I think Berube's been very good for this team, I think he has stabilized the position. He's been a very good kind of veteran in the room. I think he probably has done wonders for Jet Greaves, specifically, as Neil Harris a little earlier in the season. Why would you not go with the younger guy that you don't know what you have? And I think that's why they're signing him now. Is like you say, there's 12 games left. Let's split that. Let's give 6 games to Jet. Let's give 4 games to Cam Johnson. Let's give 2 games to Evan Moyse or more. He could. And again, not to keep referring back to Monsters Music, I feel like this is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Is sometimes guys who. And Evan Moyse's stats his numbers are not great with the SPHL or the ECHL, but something we talked about was sometimes guys go up a league and suddenly just seem to turn it on. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that Evan Moyse does. I feel like Jet Greaves did that. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I would have to check, but I feel like his numbers with the AHL are leaps and bounds better than his numbers with the ECHL because of it's a different league. It's a different style of play, and guys tend to respond better the more, like, the further up you go. But I do want to finish off while we're kind of vaguely talking around the concept of PTOs is some other new faces to the Monsters. Owen Sillinger, who Blue Jackets faithful will know, older brother of Cole Sillinger. Roman Ashan signed out of the NCAA, and also Robbie Payne. Speaking of ECHL to AHL success stories, so I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you feel about the future of this team. Obviously, the season is over, and I don't want to say it was a disappointing season, but it certainly wasn't what I expected. So now we turn to next season. Do the Monsters have all of the right pieces in place, do you think, to be a better team next season?
I personally, first of all, I just want to say I love that Robbie Payne signing. This was started out similar to Evan Moyse. The Monsters needed a forward, desperately needed a forward between injuries and, of course, call-ups into the Blue Jackets. So they pick up Robbie Payne, who was frankly in the area. He played for the ECHL's Adirondack Thunder. The Monsters were playing up there, needed a guy. So, he was kind of on their radar a little bit. They sign him. And now look what it's turned into. He has a contract in the American Hockey League for next season. And man, does he deserve it. Great all-around player in the American Hockey League, in my mind. He can score. He can turn on the Jets whenever he needs to. Just great with the puck, great defensively. And then with Owen Sillinger and Roman Ashan, not a whole lot of sample size to go off of these guys yet. But one thing that we have learned about Roman Ashan is that he plays until the final horn blows. On this past Saturday night, the Monsters faced the Rochester Americans up in Cleveland. 1 second left in the game, face off in the Monsters offensive zone in front of Americans goaltender Aaron Dell. And the center takes the face off, doesn't even get the puck directly to Roman Neschan's stick. Now, all this is happening in less than a second. Gets the puck into the general vicinity of Roman Neschan. He still gets the shot off, gets the goal. Didn't change the outcome of the game because they lost 6-2. But talk about tenacity. And then Owen Sillinger, from what I've seen, he obviously is cut from the same crop as his younger brother, as his dad. I cannot wait until he gets more pro experience and kind of the whole whirlwind and his mind settles down and he's able to form some actual chemistry with some line mates and get to know all of the systems and how pro life works. So I think some of the pieces are starting to fit together, but I think some changes do need to be made. Some players that should have stepped up this season, unfortunately, didn't. And in the American Hockey League, a lot of these guys are, as we talked about on Monsters Musings, they are on mainly 1-year contracts. Jack Reeves was one of the exceptions where sometimes you get a 2-year. Dylan Simpson a few seasons ago was the exception and got a 3-year deal. That rarely ever happens. So a lot of these guys need to be playing for their next contract, like we said. And I don't know if some of the vets will be back. They may, just because of comfort and familiarity with the organization. But some changes do need to be made if they want to compete with the, say, Utica Comets, Ontario Reigns, Chicago Wolves of the world.
Yeah, I was one final thought on Owen Sillinger is that I watched him play and was like, oh, now I understand how the Sillingers play hockey, because I was surprised by how much he plays like his brother, which is really cool. But I personally am super excited for the Monsters off season, for next season. Obviously, like we've said, there's not a whole lot for them to play for right now except next season. But if people do want to kind of follow along with the Monsters as they go into their final 12 games of the season, where can people find you and your work?
You can find me over on Twitter at FPH Monsters. And then, of course, you can find all of my written work at fieldpasshockey.com. Also, you can catch me on 2 podcasts, of course, Monsters Musings, that we've referred to quite a few times here on the episode. And then if you want just more AHL information in general, you can check out The Holy Grail. That's GRAHL. Again, all about the American Hockey League. That comes out every Thursday.
And that's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow, super exciting. I sat down early today with Erica Lindsay Ayala, host of Locked on Kraken. She is going to Boston to cover the men's Frozen 4 tournament. And one of her prospects is a line mate of one of our prospects. So we're going to be talking Ken Johnson and Matty Beniers. We're going to be talking about just how fun college hockey is, and we're going to be predicting whether Michigan makes it into the final game or not. It is Don't Miss Podcasting. I had a lot of fun recording this, and I'm super excited for you guys to listen to it, so make sure you check that out tomorrow. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find this podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticism, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.